Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's web panel discussion on rethinking personalization in retail and e-commerce. I'm Sushant, and I'll be the host of today's discussion. Uh, 2020 has been a weird year for all of us, and business verticals have been through their own little seesaw, and I don't think there's any other industry that has been through this seesaw more than retail, right? So when COVID broke out in March, retail was going through its own transformation. Everybody said digital was the way to go, but only a very few have been able to successfully digitize their retail operations. Uh, and within digitization, personalization sits at the very center, the very forefront of unique, relatable digital experiences that make your brand endearing to your end customer. Today's discussion will talk about the transformation of retail and the impact of personalization, the digitization of retail businesses. But we'll do a little housekeeping first. We'll keep this session conversational. So speakers will speak from their own experiences and not the traditional format of speaking from a presentation. We encourage you to use the chat section generously and pose your questions directly to the panel. We've kept aside some 10 to 15 minutes to address those very questions. Yes, all the registrants will get webinar recordings in their email. In case you'd like to make a quick business inquiry, you simply have to send a quick hi with your phone number to hello@winkelemgroup.com. And last but not the least, please stay safe and healthy. Take care of yourself. So back to the webinar. I'm super psyched about the lineup of experts that we have, starting with our first panelist who loves to combine creativity with data and helps e-commerce and marketing teams in retail design impactful experiences. Please welcome Bhavna Sachar. Bhavna is responsible for product marketing for Manthan and rich relevance customer experience and personalization portfolio. Bhavna is continuously striving to help retailers navigate a complex MarTech landscape. She works with clients and industry analysts to understand changing market dynamics and then suggests creative solutions with proven best practices. You might want to reach out to her to understand how data, digital, and algorithms are disrupting traditional customer engagement practices in the retail industry. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, Bhavna. Please tell us a little about Manthan's purpose.
Thanks for having me, Sushant. It's a pleasure to be here. So the way I like to describe Manthan is we are a one-stop shop for solving retail's most pressing challenges, whether it is related to customer or to their back-end and merchandising and supply chain problems. And we do this with the use of technology and algorithms. As a company, we provide package solutions that help functions across marketing, customer experience, merchandising, and e-commerce with insights and real-time activation of data. So in summary, you can say that we help retailers bridge the digital experience gap and grow their customer lifetime value in this digital first world, right? And as you mentioned, Manthan and Rich Relevance. So Manthan is on a path to consolidating their business with Rich Relevance, which is a leader in personalization solutions globally.
Fantastic. Our second guest is Haren Shele. Haren is director and country head for Indonesia and Singapore at Yellow Messenger. Haren is big on AI and heads business strategy and development at YM. In this webinar, Haren will speak on AI-led commerce and 360-degree retail with focus on conversational commerce. Haren, why don't you start with please tell us about your role at Yellow Messenger and how did you get sold on this big talk around personalization in retail?
Yes, Sushant, thank you. Thanks a lot for the introduction, and it's an absolute pleasure to be on this webinar along with Bhavna and yourself. So, as you rightly introduced, I've been leading business strategy and development for Yellow Messenger, a conversational AI end-to-end bot platform, which allows enterprises to build intelligent virtual assistants for any function, right? So we have been contributing and scaling retail and commerce enterprises and growing their revenue for the past 5 years. And we would have easily worked with more than 300 plus customers in this segment. So that's what Yellow Messenger has been doing across the world. And showing great amount of personalization through from a technology standpoint in increasing both sales and customer experience.
Fantastic. And during the brief, I read through your talking points, and one of the things that caught my attention was conversational commerce. Now, I have been intrigued with conversational commerce for a while now. My understanding of conversational commerce was kind of restricted. Uh, that its business application was restricted to intent filtering. That is, using a very simple yes, no, or a multiple choice format to automate conversations. To automate conversations and just to gauge buying intent. But I'm sure there's more to this concept. Uh, please, why don't you get started with what its relevance is like, what exactly is its business application for retail businesses?
Definitely. I think that's a great question, right? So pretty much if you see, I think the impact of the buzzword of conversational commerce has been highlighted or has been in the market from a long while post-COVID, correct? So pre-COVID, the audience and the businesses preferred the traditional way of shopping, right? So we all prefer to go out, go to the specific retailer store and shop because you feel that you get multiple options. You can physically feel what are them, right? Whether it's supply chain grocery, whether it is retail, cosmetic, right? So we look for options, correct? But post COVID, what people and businesses, that is consumers and businesses, started realizing is that uh, physical activity or physically visiting stores is not possible, right? uh, and when you go to a physical store, you have a lot of advantages, right? So you have a sales representative who takes sort of time, presents the product, see you get to see the sample and you know experience it before buying it. Now the biggest problem retailers started facing as a challenge is that can you provide such experience digitally, right? And this thought, uh, this specific thought actually created the evolve. That's what evolved and created this technology for conversational commerce, right? And yes, 90 to 95% of that experience of shopping can be created online, right? So that's when Yellow Messenger started building this 360-degree retail automation or commerce automation solution, where we have the capability to provide an omni-channel experience, right? That is, rather than business coming to you, that is consumer coming to the business, you take the business to the consumers, correct? And you provide them the flexibility to see, starting from a product catalog to experiencing a product, seeing a product demo, right? To multiple audience at a time together, right? Where they can digitally have the experience of what's the product they're buying and how seamlessly can they buy. Now, where does this conversational aspect in this commerce come, right? People prefer, communicating while they buy, right? So whether it's a grocery or whether it's a high-end product, right? Maybe an electronic, right? It's really important to talk, check, understand its feasibility, and then go purchase, correct? Now, can we provide that experience to a consumer through chat on a chat channel of his preference? Yes. But is it possible to serve each and every one of them? Assume there are 100,000 people visiting a retailer digitally every day. Can we cater to such requirements? Absolutely yes, right? So when you put a virtual assistant which has the capability to speak in multiple different languages and understand multiple slangs of the consumers coming from different categories, then it becomes the consumer, then it gives flexibility to the consumer to converse, go through what he wants to buy, create a cart, go purchase, and make his entire purchase seamless. So that's the overall technology or the solution we have derived around conversational commerce.
Got it. Got it. And an interesting point you made earlier. I just made a quick note of it. So a lot of people can do personalization, right? But the difficult part is doing personalization at scale. So if you have to like personalize experience for, let's say, 10 visitors or 15 visitors, that's okay. That's fine. But repeating that, scaling this your personalization efforts for, let's say, 100,000 users, that is the big deal. And Yellow Messenger being a partner, like I think they've been doing a great job of enabling personalization at scale. So yeah, thank you for your answer. But that actually gets me, that actually brings me to a follow-up question, which is like, in 2020, I think omni-channel was probably one of the biggest buzzwords that came out of retail. Like everyone wants to go omni-channel, right? But we know that's easier said than done, right? So what, according to you, would be the true indicator of omni-channel done right? Like how do you gauge the effectiveness of an omni-channel strategy?
I think that's a good question again. I think, but the answer for it is pretty straightforward, right? I mean, COVID or no COVID, right? Let's make it very simple. Uh, a business being present on multiple channels, right, would attract lot business more than just being on one traditional channel. Imagine, like there are so many retailers or business to consumer companies who spend tons and tons on marketing, right, to divert their entire business to that one traditional channel. Rather, you already be available to consumers where they are already preferred their preferred mode of communication, or where they already exist. So tapping that entire consumer base becomes more easy. Correct. Now, why I said COVID don't COVID doesn't matter is every business has to scale. Correct. Suppose I am a retailer who is based out of India, right, and I would like to make sure my business scales more international, right, more states within India, right. It's very important for me to attract that level of audience also and be available for that level of audience across omni channel as well. Correct. So assume now the benefit we have is WhatsApp business is out, right? We can have a WhatsApp
Yeah.
business account, right, where we know that there are 3 billion WhatsApp users across the world, and at least 50% of them are active every day. Correct. Just imagine the scale of it, right? Let's talk about a grocery business in Indonesia, for example, right? Why should people even go and buy the grocery in a retail store when they can, with just clicks of a button, and then the way they chat with their friends, they can just chat with that WhatsApp business account and make their entire, grocery purchase. Why not that, right? So I think that has, so the single parameter, which, I mean, this actually makes our life easy, right? The parameter, I think, which actually speaks about increase in business, is the increase in the consumer base. So if you are able to attract more consumers by making your business omni-channel, and if your customer base is growing 2x, 3x, at least in terms of the registrations or the entire customer base, then customer conversion is a different problem to solve, right? But
Right.
at least being omni-channel allows consumers to come in more, right, and understand that, okay, the business is at close comfort to what I would prefer to it to be.
Got it. And yeah, like, seems very obvious, right? Like if you have to grow, one obvious strategy is be present in more channels, and
Absolutely.
which is essentially, and WhatsApp for Business is a great example. I think when WhatsApp started out, nobody could have foreseen the scale to which WhatsApp would go to. But yeah, like, great answer once again. Uh, my next question is for Bhavna. Uh, Now, for big brands and retailers, which have these, massive marketing teams, one of the bigger challenges that they have is, explaining internally what personalization is, how is it different from segmentation, and then why should the organization make that shift? So for especially in retail, how can marketing align their management with this business case, and how do they secure this buy-in from management to go all out and invest in a personalization strategy?
So I would say, Sushant, that COVID has kind of made the job of marketers and e-commerce people who are trying to make this business case a little easier, right?
Yeah.
This year there has been digital growth worth 5 times that you would have expected in 2 quarters, right? And making this business case is such an important part of marketing and innovation team's role. So what I would say is that change is hard for everyone, but start breaking it down into use cases and applications. So for example, if today your maturity is, that you're doing mass marketing, or you're using what you said about segments, which is demographic based, age groups, profiles, income levels, you've probably made a start, but that's not enough, right? So if you are today doing something like an abandoned cart campaign, which is just really a tiny part of re-engaging and bringing the people who've shown some intent back to the store. So open your management's eyes towards other applications of how you can use personalization, and especially on digital channels, right? So talk about using behavioral data, which is a big miss in a lot of places today. And how can you use it not just to personalize maybe the product recommendations, which is how we know which is how we know what Amazon does, right? When we go there and you see something like people who bought this also bought, which is a basic form of recommendations is what I would call it, because it's not necessary that if I'm in the market for I don't know, a microwave oven, and somebody else who's bought a microwave oven has also bought another equipment, a fridge maybe, because they're setting up their house. That doesn't mean that I'm looking for the same thing, right? That's not personalization to me. I'm not the same as those people. And we know, how irrelevant some of those recommendations can be. So what you need to do is, if you're talking about one-on-one personalization, start by doing a gap assessment with, engage some e-commerce experts. So if you're in grocery, for example, are you leveraging the full scale? Are you doing things like replenishment, right? So because people buy the same things every 2 weeks, every month, or whatever is their frequency, right? Are you helping them, with things like subscriptions, complete the meal options, or if there are certain things which are out of stock in maybe the electronics vertical, are you suggesting substitutes for those products, right? So if you're not doing this entire breadth of things, you know that you're missing out, because product discovery is a big challenge in e-commerce, right? So make the case for that and see what is the incremental gain that you can get from this, and then elevate the conversation. So, where is it that you want to be? Do you want to be on mass marketing segments or one-on-one personalization? So, and C-suite likes numbers. So assign a number to each of those applications and strategy that you would have in place, and how it adds to the top line. And, in my experience with our customer base, a revenue gain of 5% to 20% of digital revenues is something that's seen across the board based on what is the level of adoption, what is the current maturity. And a lot of people kind of choose to do this in-house. If you are a technology company, you've got the skill sets, and you've got really, the luxury of time to wait till you are able to build all those, data science techniques, you're able to do your own data warehousing, then, building yourselves is an option, but just weigh the pros and cons of the two. But one thing that I would like to say is that the third option, which is doing nothing, is not an option right now, right? So think about what is the cost of doing nothing. Are you really in the competition anymore, or people don't even think of you? And so that's not acceptable, right? So out of the three options, I would say just don't choose doing nothing, and that's your message to your management.
Yeah. There's a huge opportunity cost in not doing anything, they say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I remember I read this case study by Baymard Institute. This was I think back in 2015 or 16. So Baymard is this market research firm, and they did a case study where they found out that more than 68% of online shoppers abandon their carts, right? Which, I mean, if you do some quick math, which essentially means for every $1 that you're earning, you're losing $2. So if your sale is $10,000 at the end of the month, you could have very easily made $30,000. But yeah, we often tend to not focus on things that have an opportunity cost to them. So that's probably an argument that you could go to your management with. Hey, we are losing business. We are not just getting business, we're also losing business on the side. Yeah, got it. But the question is like, why is this and this question is especially for Bhavna, like, why is this conversation around personalization in retail, like, why is this even more important in 2021? Because obviously, retail has been, retail has been through a huge change curve in 2020 due to COVID and several other factors. So why is this conversation more important in 2021? Number one. Number two, are there any growth trends, or are there any indicators in retail that you've noticed since the outbreak of COVID that have kind of validated the need for personalization?
Oh, so many, Sushant. So, I think we've all seen those reports which have talked about how the consumer behavior, which is changing, is going to stick around, and 25% of all buying is going to happen on digital channels, and I think that's probably a lower number now that we've been through this, and we know that it's been 10 months and it's not going away anytime soon, right? And just I think a couple of days back there was a report which has come out which was talking about different geos and what is the e-commerce growth which has happened. I think APAC is at about 25, 26%. Middle East is around 20%. And this is a trend which is across markets. Singapore, surprisingly, 70% e-commerce growth in 2020, right?
Yeah.
This is huge. And what this really means for retailers is that there are a lot of new demographics, people who never used digital before, who had internet, but they never used to buy online, right? They are buying online now. So that means there's so many teething problems. They're used to store assistance. They're used to, the comfort of going in the familiar aisles or sections in the department store and asking people, what is it that they're looking for? So how do you make this entire process hassle-free for them? I think that's the number one priority for anybody who's selling online today. So, I think Haren talked about replicating the warm experience of physical stores on digital where there is no human connect. And how do you turn those people who are organically coming to your website or maybe, through your ads that you're doing into actually convert customers and then make them buy the second purchase and, make them buy you becoming their favorite destination. So I would say that personalization is important because it's not just about one-on-one, which is an important parameter, but it's also about removing friction, right? It's about understanding where is the customer on the buying funnel, right? Are they still just about they're probably not even in the market right now, and then there are others who are in the market, but it's still such an open game. They don't know which brand they want. They've not done their research. So how do you help them in the research process? Are they ready to buy once they have decided on, the brand and the configuration and the price point that they are willing to spend on this particular item? Then it's about, elevating the experience, talking about other cross-sell recommendations, right? Complete the look, complete the recipe, those kind of, and if you do that too soon, you're being too pushy, right? So understanding where is the customer in their buying journey in the funnel, that's extremely important. And again, on digital, you can't have rules or can't set this up manually for everybody. So it needs to happen through technology, through the behavioral indication. So it's about helping them make a decision, understanding their granular preferences. If they like dairy free, if they are looking for high end or mid-range brands, what are the historical preferences? All of that is so much more important now.
Got it. Yeah, 100%. And it's something marketers call conversation momentum. It's like just what he said, right? Depending on where exactly a customer is in their buying journey, you make conversation with them accordingly, and they may not even be a customer, right? They could be a prospect.
Yep.
And it's so important to maintain that relevance, that momentum throughout the conversation, right from the point that they come to your e-commerce landing page to the point that they've become a recurring customer. I think one industry that does not do it at all is banking. So I just thought of this example. Like if you go to a bank, you go there with a certain problem, they'll say, you tell them what the problem is, they'll tell you go to the next counter, and then you end up like repeating the problem all over again. And all I want as a bank customer is to tell one person what my issue is, and then, if at all they redirect me to another counter, my problem statement should already be aligned, but that doesn't happen sadly. I mean, maintaining that conversation momentum, maintaining that relevance throughout the user experience, throughout the buyer experience, super important. Very good point, Bhavna. My next question is to Haren. Well, one of the other talking points that I that I was intrigued with in the talking in the list that you shared with us was AI-led commerce, right? Uh, for those who don't know any better, AI-led commerce might just seem another buzzword, and at Vinculum, we have a lot of SMEs and a lot of small scale retailers uh, who would really like to understand, what exactly is the meaning of AI-led commerce, and what exactly is its relevance in the context of SMEs.
Good question, Sushant. So, I mean, I'll break it into multiple pieces while I answer, right? I mean, why AI-led commerce, right? AI itself is a buzzword, right? Artificial intelligence. People still wonder what exactly an artificial intelligence is. Intelligence, right? That's one part of it. Second is when we talk about AI-led commerce, again, using artificial intelligence is to automate, right? Bring in efficiency, save money, bring in ROI, which is of great importance to emerging companies in emerging economies, right? Then that means we should definitely talk about economies like Indonesia, right? Most of the Southeast Asia countries where we see businesses in the economy just growing, right? Right now. So I'll give you an example, right? Just think about a small retailer, right, who is starting a business with a unique product. Maybe the ticket size of the product is not too high, but maybe somewhere around, $1 or so, right? Now just imagine, as you rightly said, that we don't know where exactly in the buying process a buyer could fall, right? It's very risky for him to invest more on marketing, right? Or maybe the traditional way of marketing and make sure all these consumers comes to the traditional channel, which is a shop and buy, right? Rather, what and okay, if that happens also, then how many sales executives can he hire and keep, right? To make sure all his audience are served.
Yeah.
Now, this brings in a great importance to hire, not to hire, but to create a virtual assistant which has the behavioral mechanism of that specific retailer and which has the end-to-end understanding of his specific product. Now, just imagine I'm talking about, a dollar ranging product, right? Now, imagine if this virtual assistant has the capability to speak end to end, define the product, explain about the product in any language of the end consumer's choice, and make sure that he understands the product or at least gets his buying intent that, okay, this makes a great treatment to him. Then the sale is automatically happening, correct? Now, for this, people need not invest on a much costlier human resource, right? Or maybe if they do invest, they can use it in somewhere else, but not on the tier one, or the way we call it L1, L2 scenarios, right? Like product recommendations, product catalog, about the product and all that aspects, right? Here is where the virtual assistant, which is artificial intelligence and natural language processing, comes into picture, right? And an assistant which absolutely looks and sounds like a human, which has the capability to talk to you on a channel of your choice and tell you everything about that specific retailer's product and gives you a understanding of whether to buy or not, right? Or does that meet your need or not? Now, will it be more humanly, or that is more realistic? That is, if I go through a product, because typically buyers have this mindset, right? They go, they explore, and then they think about it and they come back. If a buyer comes, explores on a virtual assistant, understands the product, maybe comes after a couple of days, will it recognize the buyer and say, hey, you were looking for something similar, would you like to continue shopping the same, or have you come to buy something new? Just imagine if a virtual assistant says this to the consumer, won't the consumer be happy? I mean, he'll be an absolute understanding that, okay,
They'll be
no
psyched.
worries at all.
They'll be psyched. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be like, okay, there is a human being talking to me, so no worries, right?
Yeah.
But that can be an absolute virtual assistant experience. This is what we have been doing to every small, medium, large, and enterprise customers. And this allows them to save a greater ROI when it comes to do both sales and customer retention also, because from business to business, that specific virtual assistant is personalized as per their business needs and pitch, right? And this is where artificial intelligence led commerce or retail selling is being powering at least 5x to 10x scale in revenues for those businesses.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, my next question is for Bhavna, uh, and it's tied to the whole omni-channel conversation, right? So let's just say I decide to go through. I have a certain plan in place. I have the management's buy-in. We are all systems go. But for me, one of the biggest questions still remains is like, how do I measure the effectiveness, or how do I measure the performance of my omni-channel strategy? How do I know I've cracked this? I've really done this right.
So I think it's a progression again, which is you start with you start seeing higher conversion rates, you start seeing higher engagement where people are coming not just to buy but also to learn about products and so on, and which translates to revenues. But for me, anybody who's in this for the long term, right, and who's looking at this as a sustainable strategy, the ultimate performance metric for me is customer satisfaction, right? Because you might do something which is going to spike your revenues for maybe 1 quarter, 2 quarters. But if your customers are happy with you, they're going to come back to you, and this is going to, they're going to be loyal to you. And the ultimate metric is customer lifetime value, which is so tightly integrated with customer satisfaction. And that comes back to omni-channel. So if there is an omni-channel, to me is not just your mobile app and website and chat and other channels that you're talking about, and also is the same thing replicated in store, right? Basically every interaction point that you have with people, but also different touch points, right? So if you're on an e-commerce site, is your search also aligned to the content, right? So if I search for maybe a shirt and you search for a shirt, we should be getting very different results, because we've got different preferences, and based on whatever we behavioral data that we have shown, is the system able to pick up the results and not just give you those recommendations and send you those abandoned cart notifications and so on, but also personalize something like a search result or the banner that you see on the website, or the products that you see in a category page and so on. So, and all of that comes together to make a great customer experience and customer satisfaction. So that's in a way the ultimate quantitative metrics to my mind. And the second one, which is a little more qualitative, I would say, is that what is the recall of your brand? So if you are in a particular category, is your name the first one that comes to mind for customers when they are looking to make a purchase in, say, the skincare category or the electronics category? Are you the leader there, right? And that kind of dictates, and that takes away so much burden from your customer acquisition costs, right? Because you're just known and people will by default come to you. So the brand recall is extremely important as a performance criteria.
100%. And I think with retail, I think FMCG has made some rapid progress in optimizing their brands and optimizing their user experience. Big Basket is an immediate example that comes to mind. Like these guys have done really well. I'm a Big Basket user, and more often than not, whenever I'm going through my purchasing list, my grocery list. If there's a certain item that I tend to order again and again, and in case I miss out on that, Big Basket will send me a quite prompt, hey, do you want to add this to your cart? And I'm like, thank you, Big Basket. Yes, I want to add it. So yeah, like good customer experience. I have one more. I think I have two more grocery apps, but I tend to go towards Big Basket. And within retail, I think some players have already started that movement. Nika for one, and then there are some of the other players. But one brand that I particularly like, one brand that I think have cracked their personalization program is Starbucks. I'm a huge fan of Starbucks, and I've read a very lengthy case study on how they've leveraged data to produce real tailored experiences. They started this crazy good customer loyalty program in 2011, which, by the way, right now has 11 million active users in US alone. They have a mobile app which works like an absolute charm. Their program integrates with third-party vendors. The data points that they capture to create these curated experiences is just incredible. The app users, they earn 2 stars for every dollar that they spend, and then they also get other benefits like free in-store refills, super member offers, event invites, and even the ability to pay by phone and order ahead. So if you reach the store, like let's say in 30 minutes, you could very easily order on phone and then just go and your order would be ready and it's all with the click of a single button. And this loyalty program has been really successful for Starbucks. They I think they registered some 40% or 39% growth in the entire channel sales in Q2 2018. So, question to both of you, because you would have seen a lot of similar brands. Uh, like, can you give us examples of a few brands who've like really cracked personalization, who've like nailed their optimization strategy? Any examples that you'd like to share? We'd go with you, Haren, first.
I mean, we have seen great amount of brands, right? And who personally work with us as well, like Spencer's Retail, because we were speaking about grocery, right? I think during this COVID, they were one of the biggest brands who have enabled that, and that too Omni channel, and that too one of the favorite channels of consumers, WhatsApp, and they have seen incredible growth in their direct to consumer increase in sales, right? I mean, the amount of sale which has increased and the retention experience which the virtual assistant provides, right? Wherein if I go back the next month to buy something, it tells me, hey, this is your typical buying list. Would you like something to hear, or would you just like me to go ahead and process? I mean, with the click of a button, I don't even need to chat, right? If I'm able to just place the entire order in what a couple of minutes, then why not? I mean, what can be a better experience than that, right? And if you go a bit international, I think the likes of Sephora, Zalora, I think all these great brands have already started, bringing in this great digitalization. And if you, I mean, to most of the brands, we ourselves powered that entire digital transformation initiatives when it comes to customer service or sales automation. And I think overall that has been creating a great impact. I mean, summarizing the entire thing which I've told, if there is an aspect where you can talk to a consumer and give him a human touch in the language he wants to speak and communicate in the channel he wants, I think that together brings in a great experience.
Great. How about you, Bhavna? Any examples that you can think of?
Yeah, I think you spoke about Big Basket and did you forget, and things like
Yeah.
products that you bought in the past that's shown to you. I think that's a great example. Something similar that one of our customers in the Middle East, which is Carrefour, a hypermarket chain, is doing as well. And they are predominantly a brick and mortar retailer, right? They have expanded to their digital channels, and it's uh, they start with, for new users, they start with things like trending products, top sellers, and so on, right? And the moment they start getting data about individuals, they're able to personalize on granular preferences, right? So if there is somebody who's shown an intent towards buying organic products, for example, they would immediately catch that signal and show you organic products in other categories as well. And even when you have not specified in the search bar, for example, that you're looking for organic, they just know that if you've searched for tomatoes, organic is what you would prefer to buy. I think that's the next level of using granular signals. And there are a lot of other cool use cases in grocery. For example, people are cooking at home so much this year, and pizza, if somebody has just added pizza base to their cart, immediately can you show them recommendations for the entire recipe? Because chances are now they want to buy pizza cheese, they want to buy spices, they want to buy toppings and sauce. So instead of having them to kind of go back to the category and add the pizza sauce and cheese again, which is such a hassle, right? And nobody wants to do that in grocery. You just want to make it so efficient. It's a mundane task. So how do you kind of bring that entire thing together and give them everything? So it's almost like, imagine that you walk into a grocery store, and instead of the cheese aisle, there's the pizza aisle, right? That's how people are rethinking, how people buy, and just replicating, the fashion experience in grocery, for example, doesn't work. So each of these verticals are so different. I think so. Carrefour is definitely one name. Um, I think Zalora has got a great vision when it comes to the full life cycle personalization. So what we are seeing is that the common thread is Big Basket, Nykaa. All of these are kind of new age digital born companies. But the next step really is bringing it to the traditional brick and mortar companies that are expanding into omni channel. So the likes of Carrefour is one. There are a few other names that come to mind. Decathlon in India, I think they have a great data science team and they are using their data and algorithms very well, and they've got a great vision. So, yeah, I think I'm excited about bringing that, making the traditional retail companies into partly technology companies.
Yeah. And you mentioned Nykaa, right? So it's interesting because Nykaa has been a customer for the past many years. Uh, we'd like to see ourselves as a small partner in the success and the growth that they've achieved, which is phenomenal. And I think the differentiator that Nykaa started with was this entire was how they were fanatical with optimizing user experience. So one particular example that I can think of is Nykaa would kind of start promoting ethnic wear for a certain section, for a certain demographic. They would start promoting ethnic wear post September or October, because that's when most of the sales happen. So, like the other vendors that you mentioned, I think they also have a very strong data science team, and they're actually applying all that data into creating these curated experiences for their customers, which is incredible. So, yeah, big fan of Nykaa. Cool. I think we've addressed a lot of different threads, a lot of different questions that we had around personalization and AI-led commerce and retail. I can already see there are a lot of questions that have come in from our attendees. We'll take that one by one. I can start with them now. Cool. So one of the questions that we've got from our attendees is, they say we get high abandonment on our checkout pages. How can we apply data and personalization to improve checkout completion rates? Harin, do you want to take this? Yeah, I'll just quickly repeat the question, Harin. So they're saying that they get a lot of their checkout abandonment rates are really high, and they're asking if they can apply data and personalization to improve their checkout completion rates.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, right? So every automation or every omni-channel or every digital experience which you provide to the consumer needs to be tracked and analyzed, right? It as important it is to have a platform or a flow builder to build that experience of natural talking to the consumer. It is equally important to track the entire life cycle also, like Bhavna was mentioning, right? The entire sale life cycle.
Yeah.
Now, like for example, Yellow Messenger's platform, right, has an analytics module which allows it to measure where exactly a customer is dropping in terms of the entire buying process. Now, if somebody is dropping around 10-20% of the cycle, that means there is some problem with the way the product catalog is being shown in one of the few channels. If somebody is exactly dropping at the mid level, right, where he has to decide or add purchase to the cart, and maybe if that process is not seamless, then there might be people dropping up there. Or the most important, or where people complain a lot, is that people purchase, do everything, but exactly at the time of doing the payment or something, they drop off, right? That is very important, because we have seen a lot of virtual assistants or these omni-channel solutions which trigger, I mean, whenever you reach a stage of payment, it triggers you to some other web page, right? Some other payment gateway completely out of the channel, and creates a very awkward experience, frankly. But if you can maintain that experience in all the channels where you're providing, and if the consumer feels that okay, doing the payment also is seamless, then maybe there is a high chances of you going ahead, right? And second thing, from a virtual assistant point of view, or from a flow point of view, if you are able to show some offers exactly at the time where he's going to do a purchase, right, which says that, okay, add something more, you'll get 20 to 30% off, right? And that's where the personalization or attraction of discounting sort of thing should come in place, right? That would motivate people to make the purchase quicker and faster, right? I think keeping that in mind is where LMS has done a lot of integrations and out of the box integrations, I could say, right? Like for payment gateways, we have integrated with Setu, Midtrans, Razorpay, Paytm, and all these providers, right? I mean, we went to a state, a scale where we decided that, not only the purchase, but the delivery and logistics should also be tracked at our level or the omnichannel experience level. So we have out of the box integrations with the logistics partners as well, making the end-to-end sale and delivery seamless for consumers.
Got it. Got it. Uh, we have another question for Haren. The question is, Haren talked about multi-channel presence for larger business pie. How's Yellow Messenger helping in building that scale with e-commerce marketplaces?
Okay, I think uh, try to consider that to be the same point, right?
Yeah.
But in short, uh, we know this was coming, right? When we knew that we could create a direct-to-consumer channel for businesses, we also knew that why not exploit or increase its sale through marketplaces. So keeping that in mind, Yellow Messenger has broken partnership with a lot of out-of-the-box inventory or order management systems, which includes the likes of Shopify, Magento, right? All these systems we have out of the box integration where Yellow Messenger bot platform is available for different retailers to use and make sure their commerce can happen seamlessly through those marketplaces. So we are available as technology in these marketplace channels as well for retailers or businesses to adapt to our technology.
Here. Our next question is for Bhavna, the question is, how should I decide the tech stack to use if I want to take my brand Omni channel? What kind of tools would I need?
Okay. So I would say, before you go to the tools, think about your strategy, right? So are you looking at just, tactical play over there, or are you looking at using your, customer data across different channels? So do you have a data strategy to start with? What is it that you are, what are the different base foundationally, right? Do you have just the demographics? Do you have behavioral data? Do you have all of these components across different touch points that a person has with you together, and you're able to use that in a algorithmic manner, right? So I think you spoke about personalization at scale, right? As buzzwordy as it sounds, this is something which is becoming a reality, because if you think about the old times mom and pop stores, and how the shopkeeper knows each individual, and they know that what they are likely to buy, they're going to talk to them in a very personal manner, and you can't of course do that when you have a million customers, right? So what are you looking at to do? So your tech stack should take care of a solid customer data foundation, and then you should look at different pieces that sit on top of it, based on if stores are important to you. Are you able to bring together the store data with the online data and in real time, and able to activate it for different channels? So I think it's kind of a bottom up approach that I would suggest to people.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I think what is super important is like, how do all the tools within your tech stack speak to each other? So that integration has to be deep and layered.
Yeah.
That there's no loss of information across your entire stack. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the silos problem is a big problem for sure.
Yeah, yeah. The next question is for Harid, and this is actually quite interesting. So the question is, how can we best humanize they've used quotes, how can we best humanize our conversations with our customers so they look less artificial despite being AI driven?
Very simple. One is as I already spoke, experience of training the NLP with a lot of data again and again, right? And the one which will help us seal the deal is that businesses pass data with consumers, So a lot of businesses would have these live chat systems, or different systems where they would have collected a lot of data on how a consumer behavior is, right? Because consumer behaviors typically change from business to business, correct? If we get a hold of all the data and we use that to train the virtual assistant again and again on the same data, including the different short keys, short form, including every buzzword used in that specific industry, or that uh, related to that specific company itself, that will actually allow us to make the bot more and more efficient. I mean, today we see those enterprises who are our customers where there are no live chat agent available at all, because there is no such scenario which the bot doesn't is not aware about when it comes to that business. So that is the level of efficiency which we have reached just through training the NLP engine with the past data more accurately with short keys and short forms in language of the business's choice.
Got it. And it's like, a great application of NLP is it's a constantly learning and churning process. So it'll keep learning from your interactions, your conversations, and then build more personalized, more enriching conversations for the end.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I think we have one more question that we'd like to take, and yeah, this is very generic, and we get this a lot. So this question is, what is the difference between multi-channel and omni-channel? I can't tell you the number of times we get this question. Harin, why don't you take this?
Yeah, I think it's straightforward, right? I mean, multi-channel was, I think this is my point of view, right? Multi-channel has always been that traditional, I mean, having an alternate to the traditional way of you doing a business. I mean, we see a lot of companies who have a store or a physical store in place, and then a website or a website channel to back it up, correct?
Yeah,
It's just two-way purchase channels which businesses have had always. And because of that, again, that problem of investing a lot on marketing, traditional, and to divert people onto traditional channels, right? TV advertising, everything came into picture because they had only two places to divert their entire traffic.
yeah,
And no matter whether it was the customer's choice or not, I mean, just imagine I'm sitting in X place in one city, and that retailer is present somewhere across the city. Why would I even think of traveling, right? Then I'm forced to go to the other channel, which is website. I like it or not, correct? Now the difference omni-channel brings is you're omnipresent. You're there everywhere. I mean, if he opens a WhatsApp chat, you're there, right? Uh, he opens a Facebook Messenger, you're there. Twitter, you're there. I mean, now Instagram has also opened uh, availability to integrate virtual assistant. So your Instagram also you're there. So I think in a day, it's mandatory. It has become mandatory for every one of us to open one of these apps for sure. And then
yeah,
that means every day, if he thinks of you, if the user wants to buy any of your products, he has to be on these channels and he'll buy you, right? I mean, I don't even know what is the multiplication factor I should even put it. 100x, 1000x of increase of business, because it's just not these multi-channels which are available. You're omnipresent now, and you grow 10x, 100x, 1000x, right? Because there's a lot of traffic which has diverted towards your business.
yeah. True. Uh, Bhavna, in your experience, what are some of the what are some I'm sorry, what are some of the data points that marketers tend to overlook in their personalization campaigns? What are some I think what they mean is, what are some of the data points that marketers must pay attention to when creating a personalization campaign, when planning a personalization campaign? What are some of the most important data points which marketers may kind of overlook? Have you come across data points like these?
Not particularly. I mean, I would say that, marketers are becoming data driven, but that's still a very small percentage, right? It's mostly gut feel based decisions that happen, right? Or it's dictated by your, top down because somebody is asking you to promote a particular brand, or, you have partnerships with certain brands, your margin commitments, which is promoting your private labels and so on. So that kind of overrides the data aspect of it in terms of what is it that actually an individual is looking for, or I think even things like marketers are moving to something like A/B testing, right, which is a common concept that we hear about. But what really happens over there is that it's done in a very manual manner. So I wouldn't say it's a data point that they overlook, but I would say that they need new techniques to do this at scale, because you can't test variant A versus B and you have the winner after 5 days and then you implement it. That's not how it works. It's not going to
Yeah,
scale that
yeah,
way.
true.
It needs to happen in real time. So I would say pay attention to some of those things that are just eating your bandwidth but resulting in very, very little incremental returns.
Yeah, I think marketers and A/B testing practitioners tend to rush or speed up their the stage where they have to form hypothesis.
Yeah.
So when especially when creating A/B test or when planning A/B test, it's very important to come up with an observation and then a hypothesis, both of which are like driven by data. So one aspect where marketers rush is forming this hypothesis, and then the other thing what he said, right, that if you run a test, you have to let it through enough visitors for it to actually make sense. So business marketing teams often tend to not have that patience, and they'll like still go ahead with the test and then probably not get the same results as expected.
Right,
So
and it comes back to the entire personalization conversation, right? If in A/B test you are splitting the traffic two ways and you're saying this variant is better, it's not better for the entire population, right? So the better has to be for every individual, and A/B testing is not going to yield that. But I think just coming back to probably the intent of the question, I think a lot of marketers are stuck in what we call vanity metrics,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
correct,
there's things
correct.
like impressions and click-through rates. It's a good start, but it's not leading to anything tangible or what your management really cares for,
Yeah,
right? So there is really a need to elevate the conversation from some of those vanity metrics that momentarily make you happy to really go to something that actually matters in business, and that's conversions and revenue.
makes sense. There's just one last question that we'll be able to squeeze in. Uh, for Bhavna, personalization is a game for the big players. How is Manthan priced for the SME, MSME, or high growth brands? Wow, Bhavna, you're getting a direct business inquiry. Great. Yeah, you want
um,
to take that?
No, I think I would say that it's kind of a myth that personalization is for the big daddies. We have seen a lot of small players, direct to customer brands and so on, which are emerging now that are able to do personalization. And that's where our entire value proposition is, that if you were to have your own team, hire data scientists, figure out this entire, build your own models, it's going to take you very, very long. And the time to market is too much. And if you were to choose a personalization provider, and just as an input, how we base our pricing is based on your total revenue. So if your revenue is small today, the price is going to be proportionately lower for you. And I think we've been doing running some campaigns for this market, which is Asia market, because what I see, this is a market where personalization is not yet being used in its fullest value. So right, so for anybody who's kind of looking to invest in this, I think there are some really lucrative options that we can give to even small or medium sized players right now.
100%. Yeah, yeah, totally with you on that. Like personalization is at scale is one thing, but that does not mean that personalization is not for smaller players.
Yeah.
So regardless of what your scale is as a business, uh, personalization is something that you just cannot afford to ignore. So yeah, well
And
answered.
think about the value and the ROI rather than the price is what I would say. If you're getting
Yeah,
20x returns, it's absolutely worth the investment.
right, absolutely. Cool. So I think I think it's about time. Yes, we're bang on time, and we've been through all the questions. I'm sure there are several other questions that our attendees will continue sending. We will try to answer as many as we can. Remember, if you have to make a business inquiry for any of the products, please just send a quick hello to hello@vinculamgroup.com with your phone number, and we'll get back to you. Once again, thank you so much, Bhavna and Haren. This was a fun, interesting, and enriching conversation for me. And I'm sure it was likewise for our attendees. Uh, I cannot thank you enough for taking out the time and sharing your experiences with us and asking and answering all the questions that we had. We'll try to do these roundtables more often. And yeah, great session. Thank you so much, and
Thank you.
thank you to the audience, who joined us today. And yeah, see you in the next webinar. Thank you, guys. Thank you once
Thank
again.
you for hosting us.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Sushant.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hareen.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Bye.